Hi, I'm Christopher Paolini, and we're here in my home in Montana, at my desk where I wrote most of Eragon, most of Eldest, and now most of the third book in Inheritance series. As many of you know, I started writing the Inheritance series when I was 15. And at the time, I plotted out the entire trilogy before I actually began Eragon. Now, Eragon I plotted out in fairly great detail, but the rest of the series, although I had the major events in place, I left a little vague because, to be honest with you, I never actually thought I was going to end up writing the rest of the series. I didn't even know if I could write a single book at the time. So as I've progressed through the series, I've expanded my outlines, and the story has developed with each book, and sometimes gone in a few directions I hadn't foreseen previously, and other times has followed my original outline. Now, when I returned from book tour from Eldest, I started working on the third book right away, and the first thing I did was to take my old outline that I had worked up years ago, and I expanded and updated it for the third book. And that ended up being about 14 pages long, so it was a big outline. And I remember when I looked at it thinking, boy, there's a lot of story here. This is going to be a big book. It really struck home for me a few chapters into book 3 when Eragon and Eragon have attacked Helgrind, where the Razak are. And during that sequence of events, Eragon encounters a moral quandary. And in order to resolve it in a way that felt consistent with Eragon's character, ended up adding about 100 pages to the third book. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't mind big books. I like big books. I like books that are, 7, 8, 9, 1,000 pages long. But when it reaches a certain point, and 900 pages is about it for me, I really start thinking that a book is getting too long. It's getting too big. It gets unwieldy, or the words are too small to easily read. And at that point, I began to realize that maybe instead of having just a third book to end the Inheritance trilogy, maybe the Inheritance trilogy should become the Inheritance cycle, and instead of 3 books, it should be 4 books. It was a big shift in my thinking to make that decision. It was very hard for me to decide that at first. But the more I thought about it, and the more I realized that, yes, this story is this big, it needs this much space for me to properly tell it and to do all the characters justice and all the story threads and questions. The challenge I faced then was to find an appropriate ending point for the third book, something that was dramatic and satisfying and wrapped up the third book in a good way, and led into the fourth book appropriately. And not just a cliffhanger. I like cliffhangers, but it needed to be more than that. And I realized that since I started Eldest with the death of a major character, Ajahad, that a great way to end the third book would be with the death of another major character. Now, I'm not going to tell you who it is. You're going to have to read the book to find out, but that's how I'm going to end the third book. And I think it'll provide a suitable summation for the third book and proper introduction and lead into the last volume. So hopefully the third book is going to be as interesting and as exciting as Eragon and Eldest, and hopefully more so. I'm just really excited to get it done and get it finished and have people reading it. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the Inheritance series.